All right, welcome to lesson 1.9. We're going to be talking about distance and midpoint formulas and circles. So let's quickly look at the objectives. We're going to find the distance between 2 points. We're going to use the midpoint formula. We're going to, and then talk about circles. So standard form, general form, and then how to get radius and the center from standard form. So that's the distance formula. Hopefully that looks a little familiar. If not, you will practice it right now. But basically, you just need 2 ordered pairs, and then you plug those ordered pairs into the formula, and you get the point that would be you would get the distance between 2 points. We'll talk about midpoint formula in a second. All right, so let's use midpoint formula here. So here you've got the x1, and you've got y1, and you've got x2 and y2. So we're simply just going to substitute those points into the formula that we just talked about. So you have 3 minus 4. Sorry, it's plus squared. So it is minus 3 minus 4 squared, and then plus, then y2 minus y1. So negative 2 minus negative 1, so plus 1. All of that we'll take a square root of. So 3 minus 4 squared is 1. Because negative 1 squared is 1. Then negative 2 plus 1 is negative 1. Squared is 1. So now you've got 1 plus 1. And then you got square root of 2. It says round to 2 decimal places. So square root of 2 rounded to 2 decimal places is 1.41. Okay, let's look at the next one. So it's the same idea. You can try it first, pause, and then see what you get. See if it matches what I get. And you got x1, y1, x2, and y2. So you've got 2 minus negative 1, so plus 1. And then 3 minus negative 3, so plus 3. All of that you take a square root of. 2 plus 1 is 3. 3 squared is 9. 3 plus 3 is 9. 9 squared is 81. All right, so you end up with 90. So you have square root of 90, which if you want to simplify the radical, you could, but it's asking for you to round it anyway. So let's see what that is. And that's going to round to 9.49. Right, when you round it to 2 decimal places. Okay. If you were to get simplest radical form, you take a 9 out and it would be 3 root 10. But again, it was asking for a decimal. All right, let's look at midpoint formula. So essentially, you have 2 points. What's the midpoint between those points? You essentially are going to average the x coordinates and then average the y coordinates. So you add them together and divide by 2, and then you get 2 new coordinates. So let's take a look at an example. So find the midpoint between those 2 points. Well, again, you've got your x1 and your y1 and your x2 and your y2. So for the x coordinate, 7 plus 1 over 2. And then for your y coordinates, negative 3 plus 2. 7 plus 1 is 8. 8 divided by 2 is 4. Negative 3 plus 2 is negative 1. So negative 1 divided by 2 is just going to say negative 1/2. So that would be your ordered pair there. 4, negative 1/2. Skip that. All right, so definition of a circle. So a circle, I mean, you know what a circle is, but let's talk about like an actual math book definition of it. So a circle is the set of all points in a plane that are equidistant from a fixed point, which is the center. The fixed distance from the circle center to any point on the circle is called the radius. Right? So you've got your center. Every point on the circle is the same distance from the center. That's what creates the circular shape. And then that equal distance all the way around is the radius. Okay? The standard form of an equation with a center at hk and a radius of r is x minus h squared plus y minus k squared equals r squared. All right, so write the standard form of the equation of the circle with center 0, 0 and radius 4. All right, so the equation, if I'm just taking the formula, well, in this case, the h and the k are both 0, right? That's what was given here. The center, the ordered pair of the center is 0, 0, so h and k. So really, the equation is going to be just x squared plus y squared, and it's equal to r squared. So if r is 4, then r squared is 16. Okay. If you go to graph this, I'm just going to do a quick sketch. The center, change colors here. Center's at the origin, and then the radius is at 4. So it would be going through, 4 on the right, negative 4 on the left, 4 on the y-axis, and then negative 4 on the y-axis, and then just curve it through. Hit that by accident. Okay. So write the standard form. So same question. So 0 going for h, negative 6 is going to go in for k, 10 is going to go in for r. So this is going to end up being plus 6 in here because minus a negative 6 is going to be plus 6. And then 100 is 10 squared. All right, so we are going to graph this equation. So really all you need to know is the center and the radius, which you can get right from the equation. So the center is going to be at the ordered pair 2, negative 4, right? Because the formula would be minus h and then minus k. So that means h is positive 2, k is negative 4. And then the radius is, well, that number is r squared. So r is whatever the square root of that is, so it's 3. So the center is at 2, negative 4, so here. And then the radius is 3. So what I like to do is I just go 3 in each cardinal direction. So 3 to the right. I go 3 up, 1, 2, 3. I go 3 to the left, so right about here. And then I go 3 down, so right about here. And then you can just draw your circle through those points. Okay. So then for this one, really it's the same idea, it's just we're not also graphing it, which is what's the center? So it's h is getting subtracted from x. So if it's plus 3, h is negative 3. K is getting subtracted from y, so it's positive 1. Take the square root of the constant there, and you get 2. So the radius is 2. So the center is at negative 3, 1. The radius is 2. And then if we go to graph it, here's the center at negative 3, 1. Then the radius of 2, drawing the circle around it. All right, and let's talk about domain and range. Well, domain and range are no different for this compared to anything else, right? It's domain is all the x values, range are all the y values. So domain on the left is negative 5, and on the right is negative 1. We're using brackets here because it does cross through an x value of negative 5 and an x value of negative 1, so it's included in the domain. Range, bottom to top. So how low does it go? How high does it go? Well, the range goes down. The lowest point is negative 1, the highest point is 3. So the range is anywhere in between. And again, we're using brackets there because we're including the negative 1 and the 3. All right, so general form is when everything is just on one side and it's equal to 0. Okay? And then D, E, and F are just real numbers. So it's not like when you think of standard form for a linear equation where they have to be integers. It's just the real numbers here. So we're going to write this in standard form. So standard form, remember, is the one where you can get the center and the radius out of it. So standard form is better because you get more information from the equation. So if you get something that's not standard form, you need to be able to convert it to standard form to be able to work with it. So the first thing you can do, here's the whole thing. Let's talk it through. So the first thing I would do is group the x terms and the y terms together, and then the constant you can just send over to the other side. Okay? And then what you're going to do is complete the square. So remember this from Algebra 2. You got to figure out what is the number that's going to make this, that's going to turn x squared plus 4x into a perfect square trinomial. So in this case, you just take whatever the coefficient of the x is, divide it by 2, and square it. So if I add 4 to this, I just need to make sure I add 4 to the other side. For y squared minus 4y, it's basically the same thing. Take that 4, doesn't matter that's negative, because when you square it, it'll turn positive anyway. You divide 4 by 2, and you get 2, and then you square the 2, and you get 4. So I'm going to add 4 here, and then also add 4 to the other side of the equation. Now I can factor each trinomial separately. We've forced them to be perfect squares. X squared plus 4x plus 4 is x plus 2 squared. Y squared minus 4y plus 4 is y minus 2 squared. And then when I add up everything that happened on the right side, I get 9. So the center of the circle, now that I have it in standard form, I can actually get the center and the radius out of it if you wanted to graph it or whatever we wanted to do with it. So the center is negative 2, positive 2, and then the radius is the square root of that number, which is 3. All right, and then if you want to graph it, there it would be on the graph. You got the center at negative 2, 2, and then you got a radius of 3, and then you can just draw the circle through it. Okay. I mean, obviously, I think this one's a little more difficult than some of the lessons we've done, so please ask me questions during class time when we have it. So, I mean, today, hopefully you finished the lesson quiz and you got to take the notes, and then tomorrow in class, we'll work on the practice for this. If you want to start it ahead of time, that's fine. If not, not expect it, but we can work on it in class tomorrow, okay? And then it'll probably be due next Monday, but we'll talk. All right, so let me know if you have questions.